Hey everyone, my name's Kelvin and welcome to my tutorial video. If you're watching this video, you've either purchased the the Salted Watercolor Brush Kit, or you are taking a closer look at it. So mostly in this video, I'm just going to show you how to use these brushes, and the first thing we need to do is download them onto your iPad. So after you've made the purchase on Etsy, it gave you an option to download this PDF. And the reason I use this PDF is because the file for the brushes is too large to put on Etsy. And the PDF also gives me an opportunity to sort of introduce some more information about this kit, for example, linking this video. So anyways, if you've downloaded the PDF and you're looking at it right now, you need to download the brush set. So this big green button is for downloading the brush set, and these are some alternative options. So if I click this, most of the time it'll work right away, but if you click it and nothing happens, you might have to tap on it a few different times in a few different areas. I'm not sure why sometimes the iPad has this problem, but eventually it'll ask you like, whoa, you clicked a link, what do you want to do? So just click open, and it'll take you to a website, and then this website will pretty much immediately ask you if you want to download something. This is the file, the Salted Watercolor Brush Kit. So I'm going to download that, and while it's downloading, you'll see it up here, and you can check on the status of the download. But I'm going to cut the video, and I'll get back to you in a minute here when it's fully downloaded. So the Salted Watercolor Brush Kit has fully downloaded. So I'm just going to click on that little icon there, and it's going to take you to your file browser, and it'll take you to basically the last thing that you opened. So I'm going to go back. Usually you can click done, or you can just pinch out, and then it will make that go away. And now we saved it to our downloads folder. And what I'm going to do is look for that file. So it's right here, Salted Watercolor Brush Kit. And I'm just going to click on it, and it'll just send it right to Procreate automatically. And nothing will basically have changed in Procreate, but it'll be added to your brush panel at the very top. So if you don't see it, it might be that you just have to scroll up because sometimes it does cut off the top of the list. So now I'm just going to give you a basic demonstration of how I use these brushes. So I'm going to go to my watercolor texture here. I just have a blank watercolor texture, and I'm going to draw something really simple with the abstract round brush in the regular watercolor set. So I'll make that the biggest size, and I want to draw a heart, so I'm going to choose a kind of red color like that. There we go, and I'll add some darker areas like that, and then I'll use the normal water blender and just sort of blend up some of those hard edges. So I think these salted watercolor brushes look best on a texture that has a lot of light and dark. Now I'm going to go back to my Salted Watercolor Brush Kit, and all of these are designed to be painted with a white color. So first I'm going to select the Soft Bloom brush, for example, and I'm going to change my color to white, and I don't want to paint on the same layer as the heart. I'm just going to make a new layer on top of it, and now if I grab my brush, I can just adjust the size as normally, and then just brush on some of these bloom salted textures there. And the reason I did this on a different layer is because I can go back later on and adjust the opacity of that layer if I want to, raise or lower the strength of that effect. So I think it looks good about 50%. So now I'm going to add another layer of texture. So I'll make a new layer, and I still have white selected. And I'm going to choose the Sea Salt Scatter brush. So let's try that at pretty medium size there. I'll just draw that one on. And I think this one looks good just as it is. I don't need to adjust the opacity of that layer. And if you want to merge all of these onto one layer, you can just pinch them together just as you normally would in Procreate. And now everything is merged onto one layer. So hopefully that's a simple demonstration. Now I want to show you a little bit more of a complicated one. So I'm going to delete this. I'll make a new layer, and I'm going to grab a nice blue color like that. I'll go back to the normal watercolor brush kit. I'll choose the abstract round, and I'll make a huge wash here, like that. I'll add some random dark spots, and then I'll grab the water blender, pretty small size, and I'll start in the middle, and I'll just sort of swirl my way out. So starting in the middle and then going out further and further and further, and then I'll make it a little bit bigger this time, and I'll do it again. And what this does is it gives the blending that kind of swirling blending. That's all that's for. So now I'll make a new layer, and I'll use one of the salted brushes. So I'll go back to the Salted Brush Kit, and this time I'm going to use one of these fractal brushes. So I want to try the tie-dye bloom fractal. And again, these only work properly if you use white. I'm sure you can do some cool effects with other colors, but generally I use these at pure white. So now I'll go to my layers panel, and I've got a new layer made above this blue wash. And I'll just use that brush and just go in kind of a circular pattern from the center out. There we go. And that by itself has a pretty interesting salted, almost tie-dye kind of look. That's why I named that brush tie-dye. And you can add a few layers of these effects. So I'll make a new layer, and I'll choose a different brush. I'll try the Glacier Drip Fractal. And that one is interesting because if you go in one direction or you go in another direction, it'll have those drips on a different side. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to go clockwise so the drips are facing out. And I'll just do a quick pass like that. So that's kind of stacked on another layer of texture. And then maybe as a final touch, I'll add a new layer and choose the Crystal Dream brush at a pretty large size, and I'll just do a few passes of that. There we go. And you know, when you use these brushes, since they're white, often what happens is it lightens your original color. So if I turn all those off, here's our original blue. It's kind of a medium blue actually, but after I applied all this salted effect, it turned it into a much lighter blue. So another advantage to doing the salted effects on different layers is after you're done, you can go back to the original color, go to hue, saturation, and brightness, and maybe you can darken it up and saturate it a little bit to sort of counteract the effect of the white layers of the salted texture. Now there is one brush here that I often use at a darker color, and it's called the Victoria Splatter or the Responsive Paint Flicks. These are both work fine as a darker color, so I'll show you how to do that. So I'll select the Victoria Splatter, and this time I'll select a pretty dark blue color like that, kind of an indigo. And I'll go above everything, and on its own separate layer, I'm going to paint this on using that dark color. So I'll just draw like that. And at a few different sizes, I can sort of pass over it. And what it does is it creates these kind of splatters. And if you know, that could look fine by itself, but if you want those to look a little bit more intense, you could go to that layer and just change the opacity to multiply. And that'll make the colors a little bit more saturated. And then as always, if you want to keep your layers together, you can always just merge everything together at the end so it's on one condensed layer. So hopefully this is a pretty good sort of practical overview of how I like to use these brushes. I do read all the comments on my YouTube videos, so if you have a question about this, you can just leave a comment below, and I'll get back to you probably in a day. Alternatively, you can send me an email, and in that PDF we looked at earlier, at the very bottom of it, I did put my email address. So that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.